Yeah, homesteading almost like opens up our mind
Yeah.
to the things that do matter, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's like the best possible way to live. Because you almost can't go a day without thinking about what's important as a homesteader.
Right. Yeah, you see the cycle of life and you see the little moments and the things that matter, each step of the way, you
Yes.
know? And I just would really love and hope to inspire anybody, no matter where you're at. If you're in an apartment, if you're in a suburban area with a backyard, if you have acreage, just to start, throw yourself in there. Try, start somewhere, you know, whether it be container gardening, whether it be throwing some seeds in the ground, like just start, try, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and you're going to have failures, but each failure you learn from. And oh my goodness, I could do probably more videos on failures than I have successes, you know.
Same here, for sure.
So it just try. Yes, is the biggest thing that I've learned. How about you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Everything that I've like hesitated to start, I didn't learn from, like everything that I've just jumped into. And I know some people, we all have different learning styles. Some people really need to research and like develop a plan. And other people, like you and me, like we have to jump in and just figure it out. And that's the only way we'll
Yeah,
actually learn. But whatever
right.
it is, like you can start small if you're a researchy type person and you want to like get it right. Then, do a little bit of research and then make some plans. But the most important thing is to just do it. Like, whatever it is, don't get too caught up in the research that you don't actually do anything, right?
Yeah,
Starting is what's important.
just throw yourself in there and start somewhere.
Yes,
However big or small it is, just do it. Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. And don't get caught up in like, oh, I wish I were doing what they're doing, or I wish I were more like this person. Like, you're not. Nobody is like you. You have something unique to bring to the table and to share with the world. So do what you want to do. It's cool to be like inspired by people, but even if you do exactly what someone else is doing, it's not going to look exactly the same. So
No, no.
just be yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to do like, unless I am living on your property in your exact situation, what you're doing is not going to work for me. And what I'm
Yes,
doing is not going to work for you. We can learn from each other, but we're all in a different environment, different experiences, but just throwing ourselves out there and hearing other people's stories and seeing what worked for them and trying it, helps us all grow and sharing our stories, and
absolutely.
just go for it. I mean, that's the thing I'm the most passionate about trying to share with everybody is just go for it. Try it. You're going to have failures, you're going to have successes, and share them both, because so many times I see all the good things and I don't see the things that I could learn from, the
Mhm.
failures. And they're both just as valuable, you know?
Absolutely.
So I just thank you so much for sharing your experience and everything you've learned. Um, so if you were the person asking all the questions, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think,
I think your questions are awesome. Like,
oh, thank you?
no, I think you were totally thorough. I can't think of a single thing that I would want to add that you haven't covered. I think you did a great job.
Thank you. So, do you have anything to add, like that you think would be helpful to anybody else looking at going from a normal um, lifestyle to wanting to be more of a homesteader or more of a sustainable lifestyle that would help somebody.
You know, today I was just thinking as I was kind of organizing my pantry and looking at what I had in there, I was thinking
Yeah.
about the fact that like a lot of people don't even realize that you can just make tiny little changes that will make a huge difference in your life. Like start
Yeah.
buying dry beans, even
Yeah.
if even if you have to buy them and they're not organic or they're just from your chain grocery store in your town. Like buy dry beans, have a lot of like rice and stuff stored up, have, you know, store flour, like start thinking in terms of if I needed something to subsist on and it needed to be simple and like multi-purpose, what kind of ingredients would I buy? And I feel like the main things that I make sure we have a lot of are flour, oats, beans, rice. Um, we buy stuff like lentils a lot because they're very nutrient dense and you can add them to a lot of things, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I love lentils. I sprout lentils for my chickens, even.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is great. So yeah, like I think just begin thinking in terms of like if I lived like a pioneer and I had to go to the store like once a month, what would I stock up on? You know, start thinking in those terms instead of like, oh, well, if I need something, I can just run to the store. Like try to think, you know, no, this needs to get us through. And I think when we think that way, we end up eating more healthy food because it's real food
Yeah.
and we're prepared for things that could happen. Like I don't want to homestead like I'm a prepper, like I'm just waiting for the doomsday to happen. I want to homestead like, okay, this is just a way of life and we
Right.
have a lot of food stored up because it's just a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's one of the biggest like stigmatisms with being a homesteader versus a prepper because like I mean they kind of go hand in hand, but then again they don't because like if you're a prepper you just and I don't like labels and saying one thing's versus the other, but I feel like homesteading is a way of life and just being prepared. And um, but then a lot of times the hate commenters like say, you know, you're a prepper and you're fear mongering and blah 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 blah, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's not really the aspect I'm wanting to come from here. It's like if you look at that way of life, it's so much healthier, you know?
Yes.
And yes, you're preparing for the future, but you're also like coming at it from a health aspect as well, you know? So,
Absolutely.
what you can grow, what you can obtain. And one of the things I've noticed is I've actually reached out to several different companies um, because I really like to try and buy organic or non GMO, minimum non GMO. But sometimes that's not always obtainable. You know, it may not be available, it may not be financially feasible. But if you actually ask those companies and send them emails and ask them what their practices are, a lot of them will actually reach back out to you and tell you, actually, we don't buy any GMO seeds, but we don't have the financial ability to get certified that
Mm,
we're non GMO, right? So I have found that really helpful for me. Um,
yeah.
I've had at least 10 different companies respond to my emails and say, and now again, I'm going off of what they tell me. but they're reaching back out to me. So why would they reach back out to me if they, you know what I mean?
Right.
But
Yeah.
them tell me, like, look, getting non-GMO certified costs X amount of dollars. We'd rather put our finances into growing a good product versus getting non-GMO certified, which costs 10 times this amount. So that's been helpful for. I'm so sorry. Can I have the hairband, babe? So what I was saying, just like if you reach out to companies, you can ask them if they buy GMO seeds, and a lot of them will let you know if they do or don't.
Yeah. That is awesome. And that tells me something about the GMO label. It's like, if it's really that hard, then somebody's doing something wrong. It sounds like to me. Like it shouldn't be like a status symbol. Like people, like small companies should be able to like let people know what they do. And I feel like people are so conditioned to look at labels instead of just like the reality that, you know, something grew in the ground. I mean, that's pretty good right there that it grew in the ground. That's natural. Like technically that's organic. Like, I don't know. I have such trouble with labels like that. I'm going to have to ask you about the whole egg farm thing because I have a lot of questions now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'll message you on
Don't get
Instagram.
me started on the whole egg farm thing. Like, I could go for hours, honestly. Like, it's crazy. I hate the labels and I hate all of that and the things that people have to do to obtain the labels and the money that they have to pay for the labels. I really love it's something I can't grow myself or didn't have the ability to grow that year. Finding a small farmer close to me or farmer's market that I can buy from.
Yes.
And I love like the barter system. I'll give you what I have and we can share and exchange and stuff like that. I really, really, really am so passionate about, you know, finding local resources and people that you can exchange with and help each other, you know? Like, I know we're across the country, but like just having this conversation and encouraging people to find people locally and that it's out there and there are other people like us that are passionate about this, you know? If it helps a few people look out and find other resources and find other people that are like-minded, like that means so much, you know?
Yes, it does. Even just like the encouragement is sometimes that's what people need to get through, like knowing that they're not alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. That some days it's hard.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hearing other people trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do, you know, it just gets you through.
Yeah, it's like, well, they're getting through, so maybe I can get through too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you're a mom, being a mother, a stay-at-home mom, and like, you know, being a mom, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I've been a mom with a career as a nurse, and I've been a stay-at-home mom. And I will tell you, from my experience, being a stay-at-home mom is a heck of a lot harder than being a mom with a career. Walking away.
I've heard that many times.
Oh. Did you work outside of the home before you had kids?
I did before we had kids, but I didn't spend any great period of time working while having kids. So I don't know what being a career mom is like.
Okay. So once you had your oldest, you were able to stay at home.
Yes, there was like one short period of time where I worked part-time, but it wasn't.
Don't discount that. Don't
What's
discount
that?
that. Don't
Well,
discount that short period of time. Like,
that short
I'm sure
period of
that
time
was
of
hard.
working, yeah. I mean, when I went to work, even though it was part-time, it was like a huge break. Like I looked forward to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the thing about being full-time at home is like you don't get breaks. You don't get to clock out, and that's really hard. And then
Yeah.
if you're homesteading on top of it, it's like you've got all this extra stuff you're managing and extra mouths that need to be fed and stuff. It's never ending.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. It's really hard. But I really think that our kids will benefit so much from it and
Oh
learning
yeah.
the cycle of life, the where
Yes.
food comes from, how to grow their own food. And I know that my daughter, and I'm sure your kids, you know, God forbid something terrible happens, would be able to grow their own food and be able to sustain
Yes.
themselves, you know? And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like a really big thing for me, like to know that my kids are going to be okay, you know?
Yeah. It's
Like,
the greatest gift to give them
yeah,
skills like that. Because those are survival skills. Like,
absolutely. And that's not
yeah.
something they get in mainstream school.
Oh
You
no.
know, they get that from us, they get that from the homeschool that we provide for them.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I really want to help lift up the homeschool community too, to teach their kids this part of where our food comes from and the food chain. And I just feel like that's even in homeschool, depending on what um, program you're following, if you're following a program, something
Right.
that's left out, you know?
Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So that's one of the things I
Well,
love
there's.
about 4-H, but that's not
Oh
even
yeah.
accessible to a lot of places, you know?
Yeah, that's true. It's. I feel like 4-H is less popular than it was when I was a kid. But
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just we're
no,
not running in the same circles. Does it feel that way to you too?
yeah, yeah. I had to
Yeah.
actually look for a 4-H group to find to put my daughter into. And when I was younger, I thought it was like everywhere, but it was
Mm-hmm.
really hard to actually find a 4-H group to put my daughter into. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, we're really rural. Like, this should be totally normal out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't. And I was just like kind of astounded. Like, that's why we moved out here, to like close the gap of all of that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it was so difficult to find someplace, you know?
Yeah.
And if our kids lose that connection, who's going to teach their kids? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I've
Like,
thought about that before. At least we have somewhat of a connection between our parents and their grandparents who all had victory gardens like
right.
during World
Yes.
War II and stuff. Like that
I
was
love you for
everybody knew
saying
how to grow a
victory
garden.
gardens. Yes,
Yeah. We need to bring them back.
absolutely. Like I did, like I talked to a bunch of people about victory gardens. I don't think I actually uploaded the video that I did about it, but like, yeah, no, that was a big thing. It was a
Mm-hmm.
normal thing. I took care of my great aunt and uncle. Um, and I had them in my home until they passed away. took care of them 24/7. Um, but I heard all their stories, and I heard the stories of my great aunt, and she had her banny hens and her rabbits and the gardens and all of it. Everybody on her block had a garden, had chickens. Most of them had rabbits too, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but we've
Yeah.
lost that.
Oh yeah. And now people think that you're some kind of barbarian if you have rabbits for meat.
Right,
Like
right.
what? People used to, I mean, Ireland and like England were full of just like whole swaths of land that were wild rabbits that people would literally like go and eat them. Like they would use them for meat. It's not, when I first heard about people like homesteaders using rabbits for meat, I kind of thought like, wow, that sounds kind of barbaric. But then I learned that people have been doing it for thousands of years and we're the
Hmm.
weird ones that we haven't
Yeah,
been doing that for the last 100 years or the
yeah.
last
I'm
50 years, whatever.
No, absolutely. Because I was just looking. I'm trying to look up the dish. There is a dish that is native to Spain. Let me see if I can find it. That has rabbit in it.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and like
Well, and people used to grow like, I mean, different areas of countries and stuff were known for specific things because
right,
everyone grew that there, and like everyone had like a flock of chickens and everybody had rabbits and stuff, and it's weird that we don't do that now, which
right.
I don't know. That's something that's kind of strange about homesteading, like that anyone would think that was weird. It's
Hmm.
like it's not even, if anything, it's the most normal thing to do. It's not
It is.
normal to not be a homesteader. It's like that's what's weird.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and the thing that like so I grew up Seventh Day Adventist, and Seventh
Mm-hmm.
Day Adventists were primarily vegetarians. Um, that's a whole nother thing. But a lot of them did eat meat, and they ate turkey, chicken, certain meats. Beef was one of them. Um, but if you look at your ability to raise and grow your own meat, a lot of those principles with what they allowed in their religion is super easy to grow and raise as a homesteader. So,
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't want to get like religious or political or anything, but those are some of the easiest things to grow and raise, you know? And I would so much rather, as hard as it is to end an animal's life, know that that animal had a good life, you know?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
circle of life here, the amino acids that we need to sustain our own lives, we need from meat, you know?
Yeah,
It is
definitely.
what it is. And I think
And
it's
people
just,
survived because they ate animal products back then. Now it's like I saw something on Instagram that was like saying that becoming a vegan, which if somebody wants to be vegan, that's totally fine with me. Like, I'm never going to judge someone or their
sure.
intentions if they decide to be vegan. But, like, somebody said, if you're being a vegan to save the world, it's actually not going to do that because your truck, like, to get vegan products to grocery stores near you, it
Yep.
takes trucks, tons of trucks going across the country. That's not sustainable. Like,
No.
that's so many emissions come from that. And I that was a mind blowing argument. I had never heard that before. Like, I don't know
I
why
know,
I didn't think of that myself. Like, duh.
I
I
know
mean, it's much
exactly.
more sustainable to have a beef cow in your backyard, right?
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about because they were talking about how much fuel, water, all of this stuff that it takes to get the vegan products to your door, right? Versus utilizing meat to get you the same nutrients. So I know exactly what you're
Okay,
talking
yeah.
about. Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
probably read a similar article. Um, but that doesn't make it more green or more eco-friendly, if you will, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you can grow it yourself, like there's so many variables, but just being a vegan and buying vegan products doesn't
Yeah.
save the world, you know?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So,
Definitely not.
so I just really think it's
Yeah.
so important to people to people for understanding like where their food comes from and the next generation understanding where their food comes from and having the respect, you know, for animal proteins and making sure they have a good life and doing the best you can to raise those animals the best way you can and
Yeah.
growing what we can, even if it's on a backyard balcony, you know.
Yeah. Like you said
So
before,
just
just starting. Yep.
starting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most
Absolutely.
expensive things I've noticed, if I don't have it, is the herbs. If I want to buy basil or oregano or lemongrass, but those are some of the easiest things that I can grow without any land, you know? Like the
Yes.
herbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Just in a windowsill, even you can grow stuff like
exactly.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I can pay $3.99 for a little bunch of parsley or basil or lemongrass or whatever it is. But I could also
Yeah,
grow
like
it for
this
free.
much, like
Yeah,
this much for
yeah,
$5.
exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, right. And it takes me what, 2, 3 weeks to grow the same amount for free, except for the
Mm-hmm.
seeds, right?
You can do it all summer and have like a giant jar at the end of it.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So I just really hope that people take away from this that just start wherever you're at. If you're in an apartment, if you're in suburbia, if you have land, whatever it is, just start somewhere, you know?
Yes. I will echo that message forever. Like that is the most important thing.
All right, we're back with Bay. We had some issues with connection, but we just kind of wanted to finish up and say thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
And again, so where can people find you?
So I'm most active on Instagram. So it's my handle on Instagram is Hardy House Homestead. And then my husband just updated my website. So I have like a brand new website, and that's hardyhousehomestead.com. And
Awesome.
then I have the podcast too. I guess that's the third most important thing, which is the Minimalist Homesteaders. And it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's on like 10 different platforms. So
Okay, so what can we find on your website?
So I have blog posts on there. My
Uh-huh.
goal someday is to sell books that I've written on there. I haven't written any books yet, but I have a few things I'm working on. And mostly blog posts, like informational blog posts and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love some of your most recent blog posts, especially the paperless paper towels, because I think a lot of us do the thing where, we have the rags, but it had never occurred to me to put it on a roll and to even do that. I love that one. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it
you have
makes
a
it
lot of,
so much easier, huh?
absolutely, you have a lot of great information I love. So everybody check out Bay. She's awesome, so sweet, and has so many great tips. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Monica.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.